Redditors with toddlers, what's the most recent illogical breakdown they've had? My son was basically upset I missed the tantrum he had started to throw for grandpa. He was doing his face in the carpet, kicking feet, over the top fake crying, when I guess he realized he was missing something. So he came upstairs, grabbed my hand, huffed and puffed angrily, while walking me directly next to grandpa, totally positioned me for the show, and got right back into meltdown mode, looking up every so often to make sure we were still watching it. I asked my dad what initially set him off though. He said he shut off his own show and didn't know what else to do. One of my toddlers is very upset about mortality. She keeps melting down saying I don't want to die. How will I talk? How will I eat? And then the screaming. But I guess it's pretty logical. Mortality sucks. Mortality is pretty freaking great. Most people wouldn't want to live forever. It's growing old that sucks. I guess I have a lot of anxiety about death and loss thanks to the twists and turns of my fricked up beautiful life. It's not my own mortality that bothers me. It's the people that I love and don't want to lose. I'm a nanny. We are driving home from preschool. Enter his neighborhood. Tim, you said we were going home. Me, we are. Tim, no, this is not my house. Me, I know, but we are driving there. Tim, this isn't the way to my house. Pulls up to house. Me, see child, we are here. Tim, this is not my house. He repeats screaming and crying for about 15 minutes as I try to prove it's his house via his animals and room and toys. Nothing worked. I actually became paranoid that this was not his house and I was in some stranger's house with the same pets. The child got to my head. Right house, wrong kid. Because the imaginary door on his imaginary fire truck wouldn't open, so he was stuck inside. Ah man, that's rough. Reminds me of when my toddler's imaginary friend, Todger, kept beating him up. What can we do to keep the imaginary world from harming our kids? I used to play swords outside by myself, then come back in sad complaining to my mom because I lost. My brother used to watch a show where one of the episodes was about a baby star being lost and away from its mom. I'm pretty sure it ends with the star getting back to its mom. But once or twice we still found him quietly crying in bed because he felt bad for the baby star. This is really cute and shows kid is developing empathy. My daughter said I was going to work at the post office with her when she grows up. I told her I'd be a teacher by then and couldn't work at the post office. I spent 45 minutes consoling her, and now I'm obligated to work for the post office in 15 years. I'd say the best thing to do in that situation is go with it and agree with her. 15 years is a long time for a child to get distracted and forget. That's exactly the strategy I took. This month alone she's changed what she wants to be for Halloween 3 times. The enraged, sobbing wail from the backseat of my car. He's looking out my window. My youngest was mad because his brother was looking out of his window instead of the other one. My little sister used to get mad at me for the same thing. I was just about to say this. My sister is 5 years younger than me and we used to do a lot of road trips and it was always upsetting her. Drove me nuts. My girlfriend at the time texted me when she was looking after her 3-year-old brother. Josh is crying because he doesn't want an ice cream. He already finished eating it. This was 15 minutes ago. We all know this regret, especially if you're lactose intolerant. My wife has to save me from myself sometimes. Inconsolably screaming, I want nothing, and you shall receive it in abundance. Ah, a young nihilist. Either that or that kid is the Buddha. My mom used to offer food to my brother. He'd clearly say no. My mom would then ask, are you sure you don't want this? Because I'm going to eat. If you don't want it, this piece of food, right here. No, eats it. 45-minute tantrum with hyperventilating crying. Both of my kids will feed food to the dog then get upset he won't give it back / it's gone. Mine does this. All with a shocked I can't believe he just ate the food I put in his face look. The cat cheated in a game they were playing. This one is great. What game were they playing? Can the cat usually be trusted? Probably Mousetrap. They wanted another chicken nugget, so I gave them another chicken nugget. Breakdown. Pizza's here. Yay, pizza, pizza, pizza. Puts slice of pizza in front of him. Cries. Well, you broke his pizza. My little kraken just slept after a raging tantrum because I did not let him chew on the connected cables. I'm just trying to keep you alive, buddy, I swear. Well, how is he supposed to learn if you don't let him electrocute himself a couple of times? 8-year-old sister was looking at her. It was just a glance, but my 3-year-old went into a freaking rage. My brother used to go crazy if I turned to face him and looked out of his window in the back of the car. He'd try and cover the window with his tiny hands and just glare at me like I was his mortal enemy. Even my parents, who normally tolerated his bullcrap, had to tell him to stop being a tiny jerk. My daughter dropped a pretzel and the dog ate it. She started bawling and threw her entire cup of pretzels on the floor. Spoiler alert, the dog ate those too. Dog takes no pleasure in eating floor pretzels, but he's gotta look out for himself. The heck kinda dogs have you met? Almost any dog I've met would love floor food. That my mom was not my mom but her grandma. Spent a year where my youngest would get mad when we explained how any family members were related in a way different than how they were related to her, as if she was born and everyone else sprung into existence to serve as her relatives. She would get mad because she thought we were making it all up to trick her. When I was 4 or so, I remember thinking that my mom must have found my grandmother by driving around and looking for an old woman to be my grandmother. I don't think that I ever said this aloud, but she just seemed like some random old woman to me, so that's the only thing that made sense. With toddlers, you quickly learn how to say non-acknowledgements like, oh, yeah, and, wow, that's interesting, because a good chunk of what they say is nonsensical. Earlier today, I was driving to the store, and from his car seat in the back, my toddler yelled at me, I want the biv. He then proceeded to melt down about the biv. I attempted to figure out what in the world he was talking about, but had no luck. What is a biv? I don't know what you are talking about. Can you point at it? What is a biv? He paused for a moment, then admitted reluctantly, I forgot the word. I still don't know what he was talking about. Our little guy spent 2 months yelling about friction bagels. We had no idea what he meant and kept pointing out stuff. Eventually we figured out that he was trying to say construction vehicles. Elevators. My kid thinks people get on them to die. I have shown her that it's okay, even ridden one up and down with her while she screamed the entire time. I just don't get it. She yells at people not to get on the elevator, screeches and is terrified if someone she loves gets on one. Probably because she's seen people go in, then the door closes, the door opens, and they are gone. Poof. The box that disappears people. My kid was screaming at his balloons for an hour because they wouldn't stop floating. Balloon oppression is not a joke. Millions of families suffer from it every year. My wife is 4 months older than I am. My 4-year-old daughter got upset with me because she wanted me to be older than my wife. For some stages of development, bigger equals older. If you are bigger than your wife, she expects you to be older. Yeah, my 3-year-old had done some mental extrapolation and reckons that by the time he's 100 he'll be able to touch the sky. My favorite was a kid I worked with in the library who told me ages over 10 went 10, 21, 36, 89, 100. Then you turn into a snail. I'd make a good snail. I wouldn't let her put crayons in my ear. Full on dropping to the ground, wailing and sobbing like I'd killed our cat in front of her. I would tell her we don't put stuff in our ears, which would make her sob louder. Thankfully she's a young toddler and easily distracted, so it only lasted a few minutes. Totally gonna try the distraction technique when I have kids and they're having a meltdown. Here, look at this cup. Redirection is great. It works surprisingly well on many adults too. For younger kids, asking a totally unrelated question can work. A question that makes them think for a minute can distract them whatever issue. For older kids/adults an obvious redirect will tick them off, so a bit of subtlety is key. She just started crying and said I broke her heart. After a few times of asking and calming her down, She told me it was because I ruined her birthday. Her birthday had been like 8 months before. I tried asking her how I ruined her birthday, but those were the only 2 sentences she would say. I teach English as a second language to mostly very young children. Their parents are usually present while we work. I asked one of my 5-year-olds when her birthday was. She said, and I quote, December. And I'm not happy. Apparently her cake was too small. I think she might have had cupcakes instead of a regular cake. Judging by how hard her dad started laughing as soon as she said it, they'd been hearing about it regularly for the past month and a half. I feel like most children are very petty. They're easily jealous. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please consider leaving a like and subscribing for more videos like this. Don't forget to leave your stories in the comments below.